Welcome to my next Lost. Season 4 episode review video. Before I get into that, though, pretty important. If you aren't caught up to the point where I am every rewatching or watching Lost, or you're just not entirely sure, then you definitely need to take the initiative and pay attention to the episode's title, which of course I'll mention as well as put in the description. If that happens to be the case, you find out if you're not caught up, it would be my recommendation that you don't watch this detailed review any further to avoid any potential spoilers. And full disclosure, I've already seen the TV series Lost 3 other times. It's one of my favorite TV shows of all time, top 5 for sure. But I'm not the only one that's currently watching Lost. The legendary Crazy Coffee Man, who you see in my comments section for Dexter, Dexter Original Sin, Dexter New Blood, Lucifer, Breaking Bad, and some physical media-related videos, is actually watching Lost for the very first time. So, join us in the journey and let's discuss this awesome and amazing show in the comments section. However, I don't want to see any spoilers past this particular episode. So with all that said, this will be Lost, Season 4, Episode 11. The title of this episode is called Cabin Fever, and this will be my review reaction recap after just finishing watching the episode. We start with a flashback. A young woman plays a record and jives in her room. She is applying lipstick in front of the mirror when her mother walks in angrily. They argue about her going out that night, and her mother asks if she is going out with him, and says that she does not approve. The young woman, Emily, says that she is in love with him, and then Emily runs out to meet him, but is hit by a car. She wakes up in the hospital as she is being rushed on a gurney through the hall. She tells a nurse and a doctor that she is almost 6 months pregnant. She gives birth to her child. The nurse tells her that it is a boy and rushes him away, saying that he is too young to be held, despite Emily's pleas. Before being wheeled out, Emily asks the nurse to name this baby John. So this is a John Locke-focused episode. Back on the island, Hurley, Locke, and Ben make camp in the jungle overnight after they realize that none of them knows where to find the cabin. Keamy and his team arrive on the freighter. Sayid wakes Desmond and tells him the helicopter has returned. And on deck, Keamy demands Sayid tell him the whereabouts of everyone on the island before noticing Captain Galt and asking who gave him his name to Ben. Captain Galt takes Keamy to the brig where Michael is handcuffed to a pipe. Keamy kicks the legs out from the bunk so that it falls on Michael's leg, causing him to scream in pain. He asks Michael if he knows his name, and when Michael indicates that he does, Keamy asks if it was Michael who told Ben his name, otherwise known as Kevin Johnson, remember? And when Michael says yeah, Keamy pulls out his gun, holds it to Michael's head, and despite Galt's protests, pulls the trigger, but the gun does not fire. He pulls again, and still nothing. Keamy checks the gun's magazine clip and sees that it is still loaded. The captain tells him that he mustn't kill Michael because Michael is the only one who can fix the engine, since he is the one that sabotaged them in the first place. Frustrated, Keamy punches Michael in the face. Locke wakes to the sound of an axe. He follows the sound and finds a man in a Dharma and jumpsuit cutting down a tree. Locke asks him who he is. He answers that his name is Horace and that he is building a getaway for his wife and that he needs a break from the Dharma Initiative. Seeing the confused look on Locke's face, Horace asks if he makes sense, to which Locke replies that he does not. Smiling, Horace turns to Locke, bleeding from his nose, and replies that it is probably because he's been dead for 12 years. He tells John that he needs to find Horace in order to find Jacob. Strangely, Horace then finishes cutting down the exact same tree he just toppled over, which is in its place again. Keep in mind, Horace was the character when Ben's parents, when Ben's mom had Ben, and then he died when Ben essentially, had the gas and all that. But anyway, And then he begins to cut down the tree again for the third time. So this scene keeps happening over and over again. And the last thing he says to John is Godspeed. John wakes, Ben is awake and looking at him. Ben says, I only used to have dreams, before Locke orders camp to break. Back to our flashback, Emily and her mother are standing over John Locke, who is in an incubator. The nurse comes in and tells them that John is the youngest premature baby to survive at the hospital. Emily's mother, Mrs. Locke, seems less than thrilled at this information. At the prospect of holding him for the first time, Emily becomes upset. She runs out of the room crying, saying that she can't do it. Mrs. Locke then casually asks who she should speak to about adoption. Before getting an answer, she sees a man at the viewing window. The nurse asks if he is the father of the baby, but Mrs. Locke says that she doesn't know who he is, and the person standing there is Richard Alpert. Does Richard Alpert ever age? Doesn't look like it, since he's the same age here when Locke was born, and he looks the same on the island. Locke leads Hurley to the mass grave of the Dharma Initiative, where Ben had left him for dead. Back to our flashback, 5-year-old John is playing backgammon in a living room when his foster sister Melissa rudely knocks the pieces off the board, taunting him. His foster mother Florence scolds her before telling John that there is a man there to see him and that he should be on his best behavior. Richard Alpert again walks in the house and sits at the table across from him. He introduces himself as Richard and tells John that he runs a school for the special children and that he has reason to believe that John is one of them. Richard asks John if he minds if he shows him a couple of neat things. Richard notices a drawing on the wall of a room of a man lying on the ground while a mass of smoke hangs over him. Some foreshadowing. Richard asks John if he drew the picture, and John nods his head. They go to another table and sit down. Richard tells John that he wants him to look at a few objects, that think about them, and tell him which one of them are his. The boy thinks Richard means to keep, but Alpert clarifies which one of these things belong to you already. He lays out on the table a baseball glove, a book entitled Book of Laws, a small container of island beach sand, a compass, a comic book entitled Mystery Tales, and a knife. John immediately claims the container of granite and inspects and claims the compass. John starts towards the Book of Laws, which at a point Richard looks hopeful. Instead, he picks up the knife. Richard is disappointed and angry. He asks John if he is sure, and he nods his head. Richard snatches the knife from his hand and then takes the other items away. He puts these back into a bag and stands up quickly. Florence enters the room and asks how John did. Richard responds sternly that John is not quite ready for his school and walks out of the house. Florence scolds John, asking what he did wrong as he looks down dejectedly. Back to the island, Locke starts to search the bodies. Hurley asks Ben about killing these people. Ben states that he didn't kill him and that it wasn't his decision. It was the decision of the other's leader. Hurley says that he thought Ben was the other's leader, and Ben responds, not always. Locke rummages through the bodies, reading the names on the jumpsuits until he finds the corpse of Horace Goodspeed. He opens the pocket on the jumpsuit and finds blueprints to a cabin and a map. Keamy goes to Captain Galt and asks for the key. Galt refuses, but Keamy rips it from Galt's neck and goes to the filing cabinet and opens a safe. Galt asks him what he is getting, and Keamy responds by saying, secondary protocol. He says it's how they are going to find Ben, indicating that Charles Whitmore knew where Ben would be going, and as he reads a document, so does he. The protocol has the Dharma logo on the front page. Keamy pulls out his gun threateningly, but asks the captain to fix his gun. Desmond notices that the mercenaries' team wounds are not caused by gunshots and wonders what has happened. Saeed is sure they won't let it happen again. Captain Galt walks to Desmond and Saeed and tells Omar, who stands guard, that Keamy wants him in the armory. Omar says he isn't supposed to let them out of his sight, but the captain replies, I'll watch them. Omar leaves while grabbing his phone after hearing sets of beeps come over it, Morse code. The captain then tells Sayid and Desmond to hide in a pantry under the gallery. Sayid asks if Michael is dead, and the captain answers no, but not through lack of trying, and that it is exactly the reason why they have to hide. Doc Ray can be seen in the background. Sayid asks for the ship's Zodiac raft, saying the only way to save their lives is to get the people off the island and back onto the boat. Locke offers Hurley a chance to return to the beach, although it would be at night and alone. Instead, Hurley remains with them, and as he moves out of earshot, Ben condemns Locke's ability to force Hurley's choice. Locke denies being manipulative, stating to Ben, "I'm not you." Ben sarcastically agrees, saying, "You're certainly not." Back to our flashback, a 16-year-old John Locke, now a high school student, bangs on the door from the inside of a locker. A teacher opens the door, and John finds everyone laughing at him when he gets out. The teacher suggests that he come to the nurse's office with him because his lip is bleeding. Soon after, the two sit in the office where John says that he does not want to talk about what just happened. The teacher tells him John got a call from Portland on behalf of Miletos Laboratories, who work with chemistry and new technologies. When he mentions speaking with a Dr. Alpert, John looks up. The teacher tells him that Miletos is looking for bright young minds, and they want John to go to their summer camp. When Locke asks how they knew about him, the teacher suggests that they sent a representative to a science fair where John had presented a display of Costa Mesa. John gets upset and tells the teacher he is not a scientist, but the type of person he likes boxing. He's the type of person who likes boxing and fishing and cars and sports. The teacher kindly tells him that even if he wants to be more like the popular boys at the school, he is just not who he is. He says that John simply can't be a superhero, to which John, of course, responds, "Don't tell me what I can't do." He hands him back the pamphlet and walks out. Michael is lying on the floor with a bloody lip. Frank Lapidus helps him up, asking why Michael hadn't told him he was a survivor of Oceanic Flight 815, pointing out that he was one of the few people who would have believed him. Michael tells Frank it was because his boss had staged the wreckage, which Frank dismisses as a conspiracy theory. He begs Frank not to bring Kimi back to the island, saying he's going to kill everyone. As Michael and Frank leave the room, they notice Kimi at the end of the hall, wearing a heart rate monitor transmitter around his chest and having a device attached to his arm by Omar. Kimi notices him, and Frank says he's taking Michael to fix the engines. Omar slams the door shut. Galt meets Sayid and Desmond at the ship's tender, but Desmond tells Sayid that after 3 years of being stranded, he will not set foot on the island again. Sayid departs alone on the Zodiac raft, and Desmond remains hiding on the freighter. Though Ben is doubtful of their ability to locate the cabin, Hurley finds it. Back to our flashback, John Locke struggles to walk while undergoing physical therapy at the rehabilitative center. The trainer praises Locke's good work and tells him it is enough for the day, waving an orderly to bring over a wheelchair. The orderly helps Locke into the chair and pushes him towards the elevator. Talking with him, it is Matthew Abaddon. He tells, rest in peace, that actor who died within the last couple of years. He tells John Locke that surviving an 8-story fall was a miracle and suggests John take an Australian walkabout and learn who he truly is. Abaddon tells John Locke that he's much more than an orderly and again urges him to go on the walkabout, saying purposely that when they meet again, Locke would owe him one. Kimi and the mercenaries board the helicopter. Omar tells Doc Ray that the Morse code message he received from the beach said that Doc was dead and his throat cut, which confuses Ray. Frank refuses to take Kimi and his team to the island. Kimi responds by slitting Doc Ray's throat and throwing him overboard. Kimi asks Frank Lapidus again, and he still refuses. A gunshot rings out, and it's Galt, stating that he has fixed Kimi's gun. Galt tells Kimi to stand down or he will shoot. Kimi then shows Galt the device on his arm, and when Galt turns his head to ask what the device is, Kimi shoots Captain Galt dead. Desmond has been watching and now scurries away from his hiding spot. Keamy asks Frank Lapidus again, and this time Frank Lapidus concedes. As Keamy and his men prepare to board the copter, Frank adjusts his satellite phone, wraps it in clothing, and stows it in a canvas bag. Jack is up and eating in the kitchen. Juliet scolds him for being out and walking around so soon after his surgery. Jack grins and says he's hungry. Juliet says lightheartedly that doctors are the worst patients. They hear a helicopter. The entire camp runs to the shore to watch the freighter's chopper pass directly overhead. As they watch, a package is dropped from the chopper as it flies over. Jack runs over, opens the bundle, and finds a satellite phone. It appears to be tracking the helicopter. Jack states, "I think they want us to follow them." John Locke lights a lamp and enters alone as neither Ben nor Hurley want to go in. Ben says that his time has passed and that Locke should go in. Locke sees the shadowy figure of a Christian shepherd seated in the corner who introduces himself as Christian and says he can speak on behalf of Jacob. Locke tells Christian that he is here because he was chosen. Locke notices there is another person in the cabin and sees Claire sitting there as well. She says she is all right and that she is with him, indicating Christian. Locke asks about Aaron, but Christian says he is not meant to be here. He tells Locke not to worry about Claire. Christian says that the people from the freighter are returning and tells Locke to ask the one question that really matters. Locke asks how he can save the island. Christian and Claire both smile in satisfaction. Hurley reluctantly shares an Apollo bar with Ben. Locke emerges from the cabin. Ben asks if he knows what they're supposed to do next, and Locke replies, he wants us to move the island, and that's what ends this episode of Lost. So I'm going to give the episode an 8.0 out of 10. Character of the episode is going to be John Locke. Secondary characters are going to be Frank Lapidus and Martin Keamy. So you've heard everything that I have to say. Now it's your turn. If you're a fan of Lost and you want to help me out with the YouTube algorithm, please make sure that you Hulk smash the like button, share the video with a friend, put this video on any one of your social media platforms. Don't forget to sound off in the comment section about what your thoughts are on this episode of Lost. What would you rate it? Who would be your characters of the episode? Remember, you'll be interacting with me and the legendary Crazy Coffee Man. And then last but certainly not least, don't forget to hit that sub button, subscribe to the channel. You're watching the video anyway. Help me get over 100,000 subscribers. Join the team, show your damn support, and be a part of something special. And you never know what you're going to see on JDev TV.